Still feel it.
Oh yeah. By the time deeper dive comes around, I'm sitting there like I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah. Cup of coffee, just to
Right.
tide. Oh, hello. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive. Back in business, coming off the Christmas weekend. Hopefully, all you guys had a fantastic Christmas. My voice is coming back a little bit. It was shot this morning, dude. I'm surprised anyone stuck around to even listen to me. That's how bad it was. Don't know why. Have some ideas, but mostly don't know why. A little sick, but we're good. We're good. We're feeling better. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS, broadcasting live from the parents' house today, coming back for Christmas. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. How was your Christmas?
Not bad. Not bad. It was good. It was good. We do like a little Christmas Eve thing. Everyone comes over, makes some breakfast, some good French toast, some other, all the good, healthy breakfast foods that where you eat them, it's amazing. Like, and my brother-in-law, he's a beast. Not heavy set at all. You know those guys that can just put down food and you're not sure where it goes, but they'll go for 3-4 plates and they never gain any weight.
Yep.
And then what happens?
When I was younger, yeah.
What's that?
I said that was me when I was younger. Like when I was
exactly.
like when I was like playing sports and stuff. Like I could eat so much.
Easy. But then what happens is you eat all of that and then you're out of commission for the next 2-3 hours.
Right. Yeah.
So, it was good though. Went and saw, family on Saturday and Sunday. It was nice. How about you?
Yeah, no, it was good. Went to my mom's, got here on Christmas Eve, and then my sister, brother-in-law, and dad all came over yesterday. So we never do a big family thing, but nice to see everybody hang out for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, get out of here, though. So you're gonna bark. Go. Dog waits till the show starts to start barking. But
yeah, of course.
Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Hopefully you had a great holiday. We got New Year's coming up. I think I may actually do a New Year's resolution.
What's that going to be?
Well, so I've never done, I never do them in the past because I'm always like, what's the point of this? I'm
right.
If I want to change something in my life, I'm not going to wait from August and be like, this will be a good one. I'll save this till January 1st. But just better physical health. Like I work out and all that stuff, but eat better, maybe do some cardio from time to time. Cause that's the work, you know what I mean? Like,
that's the one that makes it hard. Like doing cardio makes it hard for me to work out. Like if I'm like, oh, I'm going to lift, it's like, all right, whatever. I kind of enjoy that. If it's just like today's, running day, it's just like, I think I'm done with this exercise thing.
Exactly. That's the worst, dude. So we'll see. I'm going to try it. We'll see how far we go, but I'm actually going to attempt to do it. Eat a little bit better here and see what we can do. You guys got any? You got any actual legitimate New Year? Mine's like the most, basic cliche one out there, but it's good.
It's good. Long. Like I'm with you. Like I typically don't do like actual New Year's resolutions, but it always is like a good time to just kind of think about shit you could improve. And, most of the time I'm just like, yeah, I could, but I'm not. But, it's good to at least like reflect on stuff.
Exactly.
And yeah, DFS Chief is right. Cardio does feel good afterwards. It's just the fucking worst when you start it.
Dude, it's the worst. Yeah, especially if you haven't done it in a while and you're like,
oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what gives out first, my lungs, heart, or my legs.
Yeah, the shin splints come back real quick. You forget how to breathe. It's all just miserable.
Like I can do a mile in 12 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I have no idea how, like middle school me could do it in like 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
now you're shooting for 15.
Oh yeah. I remember the last mile I had to do timed was like for a college PE class, which on a related note, I had to take PE 3 times in college because I kept just dropping the class. But for whatever reason, I'm taking it at like 9 a.m. on a Friday. So I'm just like showing up to this gym class just like hungover as shit. And we had to run a mile. One of my sister's friends was in the class, so I just walked it with her. I think it took me like 20 minutes, and I managed not to puke, so that was good.
It's a win. John P. I play hockey. I actually stopped in the summer, but back because they closed our rink down. Found another rink though, starting back January 11th. But hockey's different. Like hockey's a 2-minute shift type of thing. It's not the same type of cardio as it's burst, but it's not the same as running, which I hate. I actually enjoy hockey. But anyway, We got now 7 games to talk about. Better than the 14 we had on Friday. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that was nice. I said to Greg this morning that like with the games being spread out yesterday, and also with my family insisting on watching football instead of basketball, I kind of had forgotten that there were 5 games. So I got to this morning and was just like, shit, there's gonna be like 13 games because there was barely basketball yesterday. So it was nice to see a balanced schedule when we pretty much have it all week.
I'm loving it. And you know what else is interesting about this slate is we had. You had Embiid yesterday, you had Giannis, you had all of these top tier players, like the highest priced players. They're all off today. The highest priced player on this slate is Durant, who's pulling virtually no ownership. Zion's doubtful. Then you got LaMelo, but it's not one of these slates where I'm asking you, hey, are we paying 12.5 for Doncic today? Are we paying for Luka or Giannis or Jokic or anything like that? So it should have a decent amount of space here to really open things up.
Yeah, for sure. Greg and I talked about that this morning. At the time, we thought Zion was playing because he wasn't on the injury report. And so he was like the highest projected guy at like 48 DraftKings points. So definitely a different type of slate today.
All right. And we'll be paying attention to news here. Who would have thought like Udonis Haslem status would be pertinent?
Yeah, that's a weird development.
It really is. Bear with me though. If I have to clear my throat here, this whole voice thing, I'm going to try and make sure I can talk throughout this entire show. It's probably going to be nothing left afterwards, but we'll make it for you guys. And appreciate you getting us north of 100 likes straight out of the gate here. There are over 1,000 people though, so it's a 10% ratio. We could do better. If you feel like being generous today, take a second, hit that thumbs up. Maybe you forgot. Understandable. Maybe you drank all weekend and your head's still a little cloudy. I get it. But atone for your sins. Help us appease the YouTube overlords here. Get us up to 200 out of the gate and we'll get moving. First, we'll hit a super chat. Then we'll get into all these games and turn it over to Live Before Lock at 6 o'clock. You got Greg and Eric taking you up till tip. Dr. Chad with the Canadian dollars. No request. Just want to say thank you, Laffy, Josh, and mostly Adam have helped me win a little life-changing money. Win a life-changing amount of money over the past few years. Appreciate you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. Congrats.
Yeah, congrats, dude. And thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chat. All right, north of 200 likes. Boom, straight out of the gate. We don't need to go to our ace in the hole with Adam and have him ask. So let's do it. Brooklyn. First up, against the Cleveland Cavs, the thing with this, like Cleveland plays at an aggressively slow pace. They are the number 1 ranked defense in the league. Unsurprisingly, allow some of the fewest rebounds, fewest assists, just based on the pace and the defense. It's not shocking that, even having 2 stud players in namely Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, that Brooklyn's just not popular at all tonight.
Yeah, and I don't really think they should be. Obviously, if you can get to some Kevin Durant at 10-5, great. It's going to be a little bit easier today than on most slates just because, like you were saying, you don't have all those other top-end guys. But there's still players in Durant's price range who are a little bit less expensive that project better. The main argument, I guess, you could make for Durant, outside of just the fact that there's not those pay-up options on this slate and there should be plenty of value, is that this game is likely to be competitive. We actually, for the most part, have pretty close spreads across the board today. But a 2-point spread here, what should be 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. You could easily see this be one of those games that just comes down to the wire. And even if it is relatively low scoring, it just feels like there's more fantasy points than actual points. Kind of like that Sixers and Knicks game yesterday where it's just like, all right, this game isn't going crazy in terms of score, but somehow every player in it is just going nuts. You could see that kind of game here, but like you said, slow-paced Cleveland team, good defensive Cleveland team as well. Kevin Durant at 1% owned, in tournaments. He has a 6% chance of being optimal. So going a little bit under owned, but clearly also a pretty low priority. Same can be said for Kyrie. $8,500 should give you around 36 minutes. There's just other guards that look better, but if you want to get to Kyrie at low ownership in tournaments, great. Nick Claxton, 6K center, should play around 28 to 30 minutes here. There's just a lot of really good centers in this price range today, even with it only being a 7-gamer. Ben Simmons should see, 30 to 32 minutes, but again, tough matchup, slow pace, 6,300. There's nothing that really stands out here. I have seen his name come up a couple times in chat already. I am mildly interested in TJ Warren. I don't think that you can go there with a lot of confidence because I think the most likely case for Brooklyn here, even with Joe Harris out and Seth Curry out, is that they just add bodies to this rotation. Edmund Sumner probably plays in both halves instead of just the first half. Cam Thomas can certainly crack the rotation. And then you probably get like 20 to 22 minutes from TJ Warren. But there's a non-zero chance that they just say like, hey, TJ Warren's been playing, 18 to 22 minutes for a few games. He's good to go. And TJ Warren goes out there and plays like 26 minutes or something at 3,800. I certainly don't think that's the most likely case, but if they want to do that, they certainly can here with no Joe Harris and no Seth Curry. So at no ownership, I don't hate the idea of taking some shots at TJ Warren in larger field tournaments.
Because he's played pretty well too. So that's where you look at it and you go, maybe he does get that extra run tonight.
Right. It's one of those spots where like I talk about it a lot, but I try and think like a month or two from now, what do I think a team is going to look like? And I'd be surprised if TJ Warren is a 20 to 22 minute player all season. I think that by the end of the year, TJ Warren's an actual like legitimate part of this team. So it's just a matter of does it happen tonight or not. But if Brooklyn is at the point where they're like, all right, we're ready to get TJ Warren out there for 26 minutes, there's nothing stopping them today.
What about with Cleveland then? Obviously it's a better matchup for Cleveland than it is for Brooklyn, but still, lowest total game on the slate at 220.5. You are right. It should certainly be competitive. Brooklyn's been on a tear lately. Starting in the front court, though, with somebody like Mobley, Jared Allen, are these the guys that you would get to if you're playing Cleveland? Or do you want to get to some of these guards? Do you think, the Mitchells and Garlands are going to be viable today in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all going to be viable. I think that Mobley's probably the easiest guy to get to. And I don't say that with a ton of confidence because I feel like every time I play Evan Mobley, like ever since he entered the league, he is terrible. And then on the slates where I don't play him, he goes nuts. He's just been one of those kind of guys for me. But the minutes should be there. And the price tag's pretty fair. He's played 19 games with all of Allen, Garland, and Mitchell active this year. 0.94 DraftKings points per minute, 33.5 minutes per game. Solid matchup against Brooklyn. So I think at 6,100, you're just getting a little bit too cheap of a price tag on Mobley. Maybe going a little bit over-owned at 18%, but I understand why he's getting it. Jared Allen, 6,400, should give you, 34 to 36 minutes. I don't know what happened with his rotation last game. Greg didn't know this morning either. I honestly didn't put any effort into finding the answer because I don't expect it to happen again. But Jared Allen didn't start the second half last game, only ended up playing 27 minutes. So like I said, I don't know what happened. As long as he's starting this game, I am projecting it like normal. So he's another one of these many centers in the like 5K to 6,500 range that are going to look pretty good. And then getting to the guards, not getting a ton of ownership, 7% coming into Garland at 7,700, 8% coming into Donovan Mitchell at 8,900. The opportunity cost for those guys is relatively high because you do have a lot of good guards on this slate, but you should get around 36 minutes from both of them. Mitchell's been about a 1.15 fantasy point per minute guy with Garland this year. Garland's been slightly over a fantasy point per minute with Mitchell. So they both look pretty good. It's just, I think Mobley's the easiest one to get to in terms of opportunity cost. And then Allen, Garland, Mitchell all look good, but certainly have plenty of other players competing with them.
All right, let's talk about the Clippers here.
Hang on. I just wanted to mention Kevin Love too. He's 4,200 on DraftKings, power forward center eligible. We saw 29 minutes 2 games ago. Clearly that was an outlier, but we have seen Love kind of just reclaim his normal role from prior to his injury. So on average, you're going to get around 20 minutes from him. He's 4,200. He's not getting ownership. He's the kind of guy that, he's not going to get there frequently, but I do like rolling dice on him as long as he's not popular. So I think he's just worth a mention as well. Like, especially, if you got foul trouble to Mobley or Allen, you probably see more Love, but even in 20 minutes, he's the kind of guy that can certainly get there.
Let me ask you this before we move on. Any priorities from this game?
Mobley.
Okay. So I want to ask you about a couple things for the Clippers here today. So you're going up against the Detroit Pistons, 223.5 total. They're 5.5 point favorites. No Kawhi Leonard, John Wall questionable. We'll get to Paul George, but let me ask you about Zubac first, because in the games that he's played without Kawhi this year, he's averaging north of 30 minutes, over a fantasy point per minute. They've had no trouble going with smaller rotations when Kawhi is healthy. Do you think this is something that continues, or do you think that Zubac could come in and get back to that, 30 minute or even potentially more than 30 minutes? And of course, factoring in matchup here as well. We saw him play a lot against Joel Embiid in the Philadelphia 76ers the other day. Maybe a bit of an outlier in a spot like that. But how do you feel about Zubac today pulling, 5-6% ownership with Kawhi off the floor?
I think he's going very overlooked here,
That's
pulling
what I
7%
thought.
ownership.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah, I'm a lot higher on. Honestly, I'm a lot higher on him than our projections are. We've seen him play a lot of minutes recently, and like you said, coming off that 33-minute game against Embiid. But also, he's played 13 total games this year without Kawhi and with Paul George. He's averaged 30.7 minutes per game, 0.93 DraftKings points per minute. And while there's clearly no Joel Embiid in the Pistons front court, you do have actual centers here. Jalen Duren is their starting center. Either Marvin Bagley or Nerlens Noel is going to back him up. You have Isaiah Stewart as well, who obviously he can stretch the floor a little bit, but he's not a small guy. There's no reason they wouldn't want Zubats out there. And you've seen Robert Covington not even really be in the rotation recently. So my expectation is that you get Batum starting in place of Kawhi. It could be any number of other guys, but Batum's been the backup center. So I think that's something else where if they go that route, it just kind of points in the direction of Zubats playing more minutes as well. So I projected him for 31 minutes here. That's what he's averaged, in these situations. We've seen the playing time be there recently when he avoids foul trouble and blowout. I don't think the matchup is one that's going to keep him off the floor. So 5K Zubats at very low ownership, I expect to be a piece that I'm getting a lot of if that ownership stays there.
Glad to hear you say that, because I saw that at 5%, 6%, and thought, seems low just given the track record we've seen with Kawhi Leonard off the floor this season.
Yeah, exactly. And Zubats, even ignoring Kawhi, Zubats has been basically a 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute forever. It's just a matter of him getting the minutes. And as long as he avoids foul trouble, blowout, which, this game has a 6-point spread. I think he looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems like, look, in the games without Kawhi though, and with Paul, I think you said it, right? Almost 31 minutes per game.
Yeah. So, he looks, this is a spot that actually makes me uncomfortable how much higher I am on him than it appears the field is, because I know what's going to happen here is if ownership projections hold how they are right now, I'm going to end up just jamming in a ton of 5K Zubats, and then basically my night is just at the hands of whatever Zubats does.
Yeah. Help me reconcile this with Paul George. So Paul George has played, I think 13 without Kawhi this year. He's only gone north of 50 fantasy points in 4 of them. It isn't to say that he's been bad, but you're not seeing the massive production that you would maybe expect to see with someone like Kawhi Leonard off the floor. I mean, you've had a couple big games against Houston. He exploded. He had 8 stocks in that game though. For the most part though, he's been okay. So taking Kawhi off the floor though is still really advantageous. It's against the Detroit Pistons, and Paul George isn't wildly overpriced. So is that enough for us, despite the fact that even in the games without Kawhi, he's been on average just fine at this price point? Is that enough to say, listen, we should still be getting to a lot of Paul George against the Pistons today?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, the ownership's there. He's coming in at 9K with shooting guard, small forward eligibility on DraftKings. He is, I don't remember, 9,500 with shooting guard, small forward on FanDuel. So you're going to get ownership both places, and you should. 13 games without Leonard. Like you said, maybe you haven't gotten the absolute monster games from Paul George that you're expecting, but he's still averaged 35.5 minutes per game. He has a 33% usage rate, 25% assist percentage. He's averaged 1.25 DraftKings points per minute. He's just simply not priced for Kawhi to be out and to get full run here. Right. And he is coming off of a game where he played 35.5 minutes. So there's no reason that we have to worry about his minutes being limited or anything like that. I think that George looks very good, and he is the only guy from this team actually pulling ownership.
Outside of him and Zubats, is there anybody else you're looking to get to?
I think kind of the rest of the team is interesting, at least from a low-owned tournament standpoint. We do have to keep an eye on John Wall's status. He is questionable. For right now, I'm assuming he doesn't play, and this doesn't really matter. It's the first game, one of the first games of the night, so we'll have this information. But the fact that he got added to the injury report midday and that it is John Wall with his injury history, I assume he doesn't play. And if he doesn't, you are likely to get 30 to 32 minutes from Reggie Jackson. Now, Reggie Jackson's 4,800 and he sucks, but it is a good matchup, and he is cheap and would play more minutes most likely without Wall. Also, I went 24 minutes on all 3 of Powell, Mann, Kennard. Kennard's 3,800 certainly can get hot and pick up a couple of extra minutes. Mann and Powell are less appealing, I think, because they're north of 5K, but Luke Kennard at 3,800, at least somewhat interesting, especially if Wall is out. Marcus Morris, should play 32 minutes, give or take, could play a little bit more, could potentially get some backup center minutes as well. I don't know if they'll throw Moses Brown in as the backup center. I don't know if they'll use Marcus Morris and give more minutes to the wings. They could throw Robert Covington in. Like, there's a variety of ways that they can go. But if you get around 32 minutes from Morris at 5,700, he looks decent as well, pulling no ownership. So I think that for me, George and Zubats are the guys that I'm building around here. The field, agrees on one of those two. But any of, especially Morris, Jackson, if Wall is out, Kennard at 3,800 seem like pretty appealing unowned options as well.
Man, that's great. So now Tua is in the concussion protocol again, and the play that took place was in the first half.
So that's twice this year that he's basically just played through a concussion.
Yeah. And the third concussion of the season.
Yeah, that cannot be good.
Gotta feel bad for the guy. That's brutal, man. And I just saw the play. It's like straight head whipped to the ground again. I mean,
and they just missed it.
I guess I'd have to see it again. I didn't watch that game. I was, doing things, but he was, that's just so bad. If like there were signs of it and it goes,
I mean, McDaniel's gonna start being under fire soon.
I'm wondering the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and I love the guy. I think he's a great coach, but like, if like it keeps happening.
Or do you blame it on the medical staff? Like, maybe it's
both. Like, yeah. I don't think you can automatically blame McDaniel because, again, I have no idea clearly what Tua was like on the sideline.
Right. And he's not a doctor either.
Right. So. Yeah. But it's one of those also, like, if there's smoke, there's fire. Like, you've already seen the guy have his quarterback just like in a daze stumbling around the field and throw him back in. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's just crazy in general.
Yeah. Far be it for me to defend Mike McDaniel. The guy annoys the hell out of me, but who knows? Let's talk about,
you don't like Mike McDaniel?
What?
You don't like Mike McDaniel?
Oh, dude, I think that gimmicky, corny shit everyone eats it up, man. I'm fine with it. Like, that's cool. It doesn't bother me that people enjoy it, but I just can't get on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I enjoy it. I also think he's a good coach. Like, that's the thing for me. If Miami was shit and you just had Mike McDaniel being Mike McDaniel, I would hate it. But given that I actually think their offense is good, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do hate it because he's yet another good head coach that came from Washington and we didn't keep. But
I mean, give me I don't know. Give me Dan Campbell. No, Dan Campbell.
I think he's actually he's like he's the guy like in high school that is the jock, but also just like quietly gets straight A's. I think he's actually really smart and does a good job and just like sneaks under the radar and comes off as an idiot.
They play for him. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, they do. Again, and he doesn't make a ton of bad decisions.
Guys like McDaniel and Dan Campbell are very lovable until they lose 8 straight.
Yep.
But that's anybody.
But I'll say that's every coach.
That's anyone. Yeah. So, I don't know. Look, you guys don't have to, you can call me a hater. It's fine. It's okay. It's just not my thing. And I'm hard pressed to think the players are like, man, this Mike McDaniel, we got the coolest coach out. I don't know. I don't think they totally buy into it.
I think they do because I think he's real though. Like, I think he shoots straight and they respect that.
That's fair. Maybe I'm just a hater. I don't know. Anyway, what are we doing with Detroit on the other side of this one?
Yeah, so I mean, Detroit sucks, but there are some spots that we can target here in tournaments. Jaden Ivey coming in at 5,500 on DraftKings. He's pulling some ownership, and deservedly so. We've seen his playing time creep up a bit. Corey Joseph was in the rotation for the first half last game, played 6 minutes, didn't play in the second half. We got about 28 minutes out of Ivey, but he lost a few minutes to garbage time. So we've been seeing him basically come in around 30 minutes over the last few games because Detroit has changed their rotation up a bit. So that makes him look better. Still 5,500, still plenty of upside for him. Bojan Bogdanovic getting a little bit cheaper. He should play 30 to 32 minutes. He's 6,100. He's averaged a fantasy point per minute without Cade Cunningham this year. So I think that there's some upside there. And then Jalen Duren, $5,200 center. Another one that just looks pretty good. I prefer Zubats on the other side of this game, but Duran's another one, just not pulling any ownership, 3%. We have Marvin Bagley questionable. That is something to keep an eye on here. I have Duran in for 28 minutes. Bagley's his backup. I think the most likely case if Bagley's out is that Nerlens Noel moves into the rotation and plays the backup center minutes. There are other ways it could go. You could get Isaiah Stewart playing backup center with like Amadou Diallo picking up more minutes or Sadiq Bey picking up more minutes. Those are possible as well. But I think you would see Noel soak up most of those minutes. But whenever you have a backup center get ruled out, there's a pretty good chance that you're getting an extra minute or two for the starter. So, maybe Duran does go from a 28-minute projection to like a 29, 30-minute projection, which adds a couple of points on to him. So, in tournaments, I think he makes sense. Again, I do prefer Zubats between the two, especially if the ownership on Zubats is going to be as low as it is as well. But Duran, Ivy, Bogdanovich are the three that look the best to me from Detroit.
All right, let's keep it moving. Minnesota, Miami. Got to tell you, man, feels like a 20 rebound game for Rudy Gobert today.
Yeah, he is going up against either the corpse of Udonis Haslem, the 19-year-old kid who hasn't even graduated high school yet.
Undrafted rookie.
Yeah, or the undrafted rookie. Did you know that, by the way, that Jovic hasn't graduated high school?
Really?
Yeah, at least as of like a month ago. He still had to take like one final exam.
I did not know that. No, that's crazy. Where did he go to high school? Like, where's he from?
Serbia or something.
Is it? Yeah, I wasn't asking you his actual.
Somewhere. I don't think it's Serbia, but it's somewhere over there.
I wasn't asking you his actual high school.
Yeah, no, it's one of the European countries, and I think the story was basically like when he had exams. I think he had exams like during the combine, and he was just like, "I'm not taking these exams."
He's born in the UK.
Was he?
But I don't know where he grew up.
Yeah, I know he's not. I know it wasn't the US.
Everyone, yeah. Andrew said Serbia high or Serbian high. Yeah. But I mean, seriously, it is a really good spot for Rudy Gobert.
Oh, he is Serbian. I was right.
Yeah. It's not like they're ever going to just draw plays up for Rudy, but the amount of opportunities that he should have today, assuming this game stays competitive and he gets his normal allotment of minutes, feels like a really good spot. So I don't know.
Yeah, and he's been playing big minutes too.
Yeah.
Played like 36 right out of the gate coming back from his injury, played 36 last game. I think projecting 35, knowing he can get a little bit more makes sense. And he is pulling ownership here, and deservedly so. 24% ownership coming into him at 7K. We're also going to get to Nikola Vucevic shortly, who is pulling a lot of ownership. So Gobert is one of the reasons why you are getting, 5 or 6% owned Zubats, 3% owned Duran. Sure. It's not that the field is projected to make a huge mistake and that they're rostering some guys that are bad plays. Gobert looks very good here. Vooch looks very good in that game. But it's just that I think the gap is a little bit bigger than it probably should be, especially when you factor in that you are getting $2,000 in savings going from Gobert to a Zubats or a Duran.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think Gobert is the best play for Minnesota today. But do you want to get to, some of these wings or D'Angelo Russell or anybody else that stands out to you?
Yeah, so Edwards, I think it just goes without saying how high his ceiling is. He's giving you 37, 38 minutes. He's $9,200. He's going to look pretty good here, especially because he doesn't have to compete with those top-end pay-up options. D'Angelo Russell, though, is the one that's really interesting to me because I don't really know how his price tag isn't increasing, and I don't know how he's not more popular. He's projected for about 10% ownership today, which seems reasonable, but he's just playing so many minutes without Jordan McLaughlin. And that's something we've seen all season long. It's not just a recent thing. When he's out, Russell goes from like 30 to 32 minutes to 35, 36 plus. He's coming off of a game where he played, I think, 39 minutes last game. I know Edwards played 39. So the playing time should be there for Russell. He played 39 last game. He sees a bump in production without Karl Anthony Towns. I'm surprised he's not like an 8K point guard at this point. And the fact that he's 7,200 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DraftKings, even though it's not a great matchup, I just think the playing time makes him look very appealing.
All right, so Marvin Bagley out. The basketball gods have graced us with some impeccable timing here. Let's talk about the Miami Heat, who will be without Clint Capella, will be without Jimmy Butler today. That's big. All right, so time to dig in here because Dedmon's also out.
So
what's that?
I hate this team so much.
Yeah, it's every day.
Just get healthy.
It's every day. Butler out. I know it sounds silly, but we need this Udonis Haslem news too. Because
Yeah, we do. That center rotation is going to be a mess anyway. I really hope Haslam is out because it's going to force Spoelstra to start one of Jovic or Robinson,
yeah,
so we don't
I
have to
would guess
guess.
Robinson.
So that's my guess. But the thing that I think people are
I
forgetting,
said Clint Capella. I meant Bam Adebayo. My
or
fault.
I think the thing that people are either forgetting or didn't know is in that last game where Haslam started and then Jovic DNP'd and Robinson played 36 minutes. Jovic had missed the game before with like back spasms that he had picked up in the G League, and then they made him available for that game, but still didn't play him. So I don't know how much of that was them just choosing to play Robinson over him, and how much of it was like, well, we still would rather not play Jovic because of his back. So I do think that there's still volatility there, even though the last time we were in this situation, we saw so much Orlando Robinson. If they start Haslam, I still don't really know what to do with the backup center rotation. If they just say Robinson starting or Jovic is starting, at least I can treat one of them knowing that they're ahead of the other in the rotation.
And yeah, Jovic was a DMP CD in that game.
Right. But like, I don't know how much of that was because he was hurt.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say. But if you would have thought we'd have the Haslam news by now.
Yeah, you would think.
If Haslam's out, then you're going up against a big elite rebounding center in Rudy Gobert. Not to say that Udonis Haslam makes a difference, but here's where I'm going with this. Like, Orlando Robinson's at least a 7-footer. I still think he gets slapped around, no doubt, like regardless. But and Naz Reid backing up Rudy Gobert. He's not. He's a 6'9" guy. He plays bigger than he is. But I mean, how comfortable are you if you're Miami running with these smaller rotations without a big center out there? At that point, you're just assuming that you can score more from beyond the arc.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect them to go that route. They, like I said, last game you did get 48 minutes combined. It was just that Jovic played 0 of those minutes, but you got like 12 for Haslam, 36 for Robinson. I still expect that you get, especially if Haslam is in, I expect that you get 48 minutes from that trio. If Haslam is out, maybe you get like Jamal Cain thrown in for a handful of minutes, and you get something like 30 minutes for whoever starts, 12 for whoever doesn't start, and 6. But I still think it'll be more likely that, like, if Orlando Robinson starts, you go like 30 or 32 minutes for Robinson and 16 or 18 for Jovic. Or, if Jovic starts, I'd be a little bit more hesitant, but maybe go like 26 for him, 22 for Robinson, something like that. I still think you're most likely getting 48 minutes from those two guys, especially because Jimmy Butler is out as well. So you have plenty of wing minutes that need to be soaked up by the wings before they start taking center minutes.
Yeah, right. So with Jimmy Butler sideline now, with Bam out, with Dedmon out, we're getting ourselves into a situation now where, like, let's say, what would the starting lineup be if you had to project it now? Let's hold on. Let me see if this is the Haslam. But still, let's assume that Haslam's out for a second. What do you think the starting lineup looks like against this Minnesota team?
Lowry, Hero, Martin, Strus, Robinson / Jovic. My guess is Robinson.
How much Miami exposure are you gonna have in this case?
More than I want. I mean, the price tags have gotten kind of expensive, but 9,100 Hero probably playing like 38 minutes here. He's averaged 1.25 DraftKings points per minute in 135 minutes without Butler and Bam. 32.4% usage rate, 27.9% assist percentage. Lowry's played 85 minutes without them. 0.91 DraftKings points per minute, about a 22% usage rate, 25.5% assist percentage. He's 6,600. He's likely to play a ton as well. It's just the playing time is going to be so appealing for those guys, even at relatively expensive salaries. Then you should get more minutes from Martin and Strus. They are both, Martin's 5,400, Strus is 53, so they're not going to look quite as good, as they would if they were cheaper, but you should get plenty of playing time from them. Martin's averaged 0.73 DraftKings points per minute. Strus is at 0.7, so, again, not the most exciting options either. Oladipo should play plenty. He kind of sucks, but 5,700, probably playing, 28 to 30 minutes here is somewhat appealing. And then, again, whoever starts at center, I assume it's going to be Robinson. He's 3,200. That's going to look like a very good value spot. That's something else that's going to cut into how easy it actually is to get to Zubats and Duran is, if you have Gobert, you have Vooch, you have Robinson, you're getting into that situation again like we've had on a lot of these slates recently where it's like there's a lot of really good center plays, but there's like 3 that look really, really good and are really tough to pass up. If Jovic starts, he does have power forward eligibility, which makes it a little bit easier to, just play him there and get to the other centers that we like. But there's going to be a lot to like for Miami here.
Do you think you'd see Jovic and Robinson playing alongside each other?
I don't expect it. You could, but I think like Miami still has enough wings here because you have Strus, you have Martin, you have Highsmith, you have Robinson, Vincent's back, you have Oladipo. I don't think I missed one, but like they have no shortage of wings. So I don't, especially also they've had opportunities to play Jovic recently and they've still DNP'd him. Like the other day, not the game where Adebayo and Dedmon were out where Robinson played a ton, but the other day they were really shorthanded and they played Kane ahead of Jovic off the bench. So it was the game where because they started Jovic a few games ago. He played like 16 minutes. Then they were missing another guy. I don't remember the exact situation, but they were missing another guy. So I thought they were going to start Jovic and play him like 24. They actually started Highsmith and then played Jamal Cain off the bench ahead of Jovic. So everything they've done recently just kind of suggests that they're not really going out of their way to give Jovic minutes right now.
So then there's no way you're going to want lineups with both of them in it. I mean, like
right. I'd play one of them.
What type of rules are you setting for Miami right now, given what we know?
Assuming the starting lineup is what I'm guessing, Hero, Lowry, Strus, Martin, and one of the centers, I would set a rule to play a max one of the centers. Other than that, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I guess I wouldn't want more than 2 probably of like Oladipo, Martin, Strus, just thinking through the closing lineup. I expect the closing lineup, as long as the game's competitive, to be Lowry, Hero, one of the centers, and then 2 guys, whether that's Oladipo, Martin, Strus, Highsmith, Robinson, Duncan Robinson, could be any of those guys, but for sure would be setting the center rule.
Okay. Aiden says favorite value under 3,300 on DraftKings. Right now, it looks like Orlando Robinson, right?
Yeah, it's especially if he's starting, it's kind of got to be Robinson, I think.
Yeah, I don't see how you get away from that. I thought we had another super chat. Tyler, if we get these, shoot them over to me. Jamie, on a short slate with limited pay-up options, is stacking a higher upside game the way to go?
I wouldn't say the way to go, but it's something you can do. Like, I don't think you ever have to stack an NBA. I also don't think it's a bad idea. There's just kind of there's pros and cons to it. The pros being that if you have a bunch of players from the same game and that game ends up going down to the wire or even better, going to overtime, obviously like a large percentage of your lineup is benefiting. If you have a game that just soars over its total because it plays at a faster pace than expected, or you have refs, with quick whistles, so you're getting to the line a lot more. Again, like a large percentage of your lineup benefits. The cons are that in a normal game environment, if every game does kind of go according to projection and you're not getting a faster paced game, more possessions, every shot somebody takes is a shot somebody else isn't taking. So you do get some negative correlation from guys on the same team, but I think it's sort of offset by those other factors I mentioned. So I don't ever think stacking is bad, but you also, I think, want to make sure that you leave yourself enough room to like fit in the best value plays. Like if you just say, I'm going to play 7 guys from the same game, you're missing out on really good plays. If you say like, I'm going to play, 3 guys from this game, 3 guys from that game, at least you're giving yourself like a couple spots where you can just play the best plays, regardless of a stack. So I don't think it's a bad idea, but it's never like you should definitely do this type thing.
All right. Anything else for Miami, or you want to move this one on? I think we covered everything right now.
I think we've covered everything we can without knowing what Haslam is doing and who is starting.
Yep. Amazing that in 2020, almost 2023, we're waiting on Udonis Haslam.
I've said his name about 15 times more this season than I would have guessed at the beginning of the year.
No, you've said it 15 times more this season than you did all of last season, probably.
That is also true.
Like, not even kidding. I
right.
Can't remember the last time he was actually a factor here, other than pulling, 5 minutes in mop-up duty. Anyway.
He had that one random game that he started and got ejected 30 seconds in.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Yeah. I think they almost started him so he could get ejected 30 seconds in. Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, I actually had that when they started him the other day in that spot start. My first thought was like, all right, who on this team do they want Haslam to fight?
Right. Yeah, he's an enforcer.
Yeah.
That's why they keep him around. Man, he's been there for a long time, though.
Dude, he's been there I think he's been there since I was in high school.
Really?
He has been on the Miami Heat. I'm sorry. He has been on the Miami Heat since I was in middle school.
No, 2003.
He was on the Miami Heat when I was in 7th grade.
That's amazing.
He was in the NBA draft when I was in 6th grade.
How often do you see a guy, right, that's averaging like 5 minutes per game over his last 8 seasons? Mind you, 5 minutes per game, and he's only playing in like 10 per season.
Right.
That's still in the NBA. That's still getting paid.
Never. It's Udonis Haslem. Like
that's it.
Yeah, he's a coach that they just give a uniform to.
He's a unicorn, is what he is.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if this never happens again. He's been in the league for 2 decades almost.
Yeah, I mean he's been in the he was a rookie the same year as LeBron, right?
Wasn't LeBron 1 year earlier? Maybe you're right.
I thought LeBron was 2003.
No, I think you're right. It was
2003.
Yeah, same year.
So but Haslem was the draft before LeBron.
Right, but he was overseas.
Yeah, because he was undrafted, then he went overseas, then he came to Miami. So yeah, Haslem was in the draft the year before LeBron.
Amazing stuff. I was in 2003. I was in 10th grade.
Yeah, I graduated 6th grade in like spring 2002 and started middle school fall 2002.
I can't believe that. All right. Like his career is going to last longer than LeBron's. How funny would that be?
If Bronny didn't exist, I would say that might be true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But LeBron's going to be doing this Haslem shit so that he can play with Bronny.
We got to speed up a little bit here. Live before lock coming up after this. By the way, no house advantage. I probably don't even have to look. My assumption is there's just a lot of overlay over there again right now. They just upped their first match deposit bonus from $50 to $100, which is sweet. And they've got a sick format. Not to mention that all of the tools that you need to win over there, like the optimal lineups tool, the no house advantage player prop projections, all of those are free over at Stokastic.com. So you got our tools for free, built by Alex Baker himself, Awesemo himself. You got the first match $100 deposit bonus when you sign up using the link in the description or the one that Tyler can throw in the chat right now. Click that if you're trying to get access to all of that. And a sick format. Plus, there's no real learning curve. Like all the research you do here, everything we talk about here, it's all 100% applicable over there at No House Advantage. You're just taking props, over, under, no juice on either side, just the over or the under, whether it's points, rebounds, assists, you name it, put them into a lineup. The ones you like the most go at the top. They get the most points. The ones you're least confident in go at the bottom. They get the fewest points. You play against the field. You win money. And there's massive overlay. Unlike any of these, all these other sites, this shit fills up by like 5:30, 6 o'clock a lot of times. These, you're not even getting close to filled. It's by design. They want you to check it out. They want you to check the platform out. And in doing so, they're saying, here's a ton of overlay every single night, 10, 15K up top. And they also have the play against the house to win 21x your entry if you make all your picks. So million reasons to play over there, specifically the overlay. But the free tools that we have, the $100 first match deposit bonus, check it out. It is right there in the description and in chat. We can toss it in there one more time. No House Advantage, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, well, we'll speed this one up a little bit, Adam. Next up, we got Houston Rockets against the Chicago Bulls, 231 total. Caruso is really the only applicable injury here, but let's start with Houston on the other side, 7.5-point dogs. Anyone you're really liking today from the Rockets?
It's just one of those teams where I think across the board, everybody looks pretty good. There's not one guy that stands out above the rest, but 16% ownership coming into Jalen Green, 14% to Porter, 12% to Jabari Smith, 7 to Şengün. Green and Porter in particular look really good here. Just cheap price tags, 6,800 on Green, 7,100 on Porter. Porter slightly over a fantasy point per minute this year. Green right around the fantasy point per minute. You should get 34, 35 minutes from both of them. They just look like solid options, good enough matchup against Chicago as well. Şengün looks good at 6,200. It's just that there are so many centers today, and with Bam being out, obviously that opens up even more in addition to the Gobert and Vooch pieces. But Şengün certainly another good tournament play. Jabari Smith's been playing better recently, and that has translated into more playing time. So I think, at 5,300, there is a little bit of value there as well.
Okay. So Houston, mostly a team that you're not getting a ton of?
I think that I'll have a lot of Houston in general. I don't think that there's one guy on Houston that I'll just be
that makes sense. Yeah, just kind of spaced out.
Yeah, just play Kevin Porter here, play Jalen Green there, play a little bit of Şengün.
Right, but no smash spots that we talked about with a bunch of these games already.
Right.
All right, on the other side, though, Chicago going up against Houston, and it's a really appealing spot, and it's clearly reflected in the ownership. DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, Zach LaVine, all of these guys pulling, even Dosunmu getting a decent amount of pull today. So Chicago, one of the most popular teams we're going to see on this 7-game slate.
And for good reason. Good matchup against Houston. 119 not implied run total. It hasn't been baseball season for like 3 months. Implied total for Chicago. One thing to keep an eye on here, and it's easy to overlook, but Javonte Green is questionable for this game. He was doubtful this morning. Now he's questionable. It does matter a bit because in their last game, I don't know if they would do it again because I sure as hell didn't think they were going to do it last game. But in their last game, they played Andre Drummond alongside Nikola Vucevic for like 10 minutes. That was against the Knicks. So it's a team where you could do that, but you certainly didn't have to. Like, you know, they were doing it during Hartenstein Simmons minutes, but also during like Hartenstein and Julius Randle minutes. So I think here, if Green is out, you certainly could get a few minutes, you know, where they're alongside each other, which just allows you to increase the minutes projection on Vooch and also on Drummond and makes them both look a little bit better. If Green is in, I certainly expect 0 minutes alongside each other, and I think you're getting 34, 35 from Vooch, 13 or 14 from Drummond. It would still make, you know, Vooch look very good at 7,500. It would make Drummond be the, like, if Orlando Robinson somehow only plays 18 minutes, Drummond can beat him type play, but type pivot. But, you know, Robinson will be the clear priority at that price range. But one or the other, Vooch is going to look good. If Javonte Green's out, I think Vooch actually does look a little bit better. Similarly, Goran Dragic, 3,200, Kobe White, 4,100. You only got 18 minutes from Dragic and about 20 minutes from White last game because they ran that weird rotation with Drummond playing alongside Vooch. If Javonte Green is out here, there is a good chance that you're getting more run from Kobe White and or Goran Dragic. So they become somewhat interesting spots to take shots on in tournaments. Ayo Dosunmu, assuming he's in the starting lineup, should play 30 to 32 minutes. He's not a good point per minute guy, but he is only 4K. So he's going to look like a pretty solid option there from a value standpoint. Patrick Williams should play around 33, 34 minutes. There's better value spots to get to, but certainly playable as well. But amongst the main three, I think Vooch is the best option, but certainly don't sleep on DeRozan or LaVine either. These guys are both playing big minutes as well. They're both over fantasy point per minute guys. So I think Chicago should be getting a lot of ownership. I agree that Vooch, DeRozan, LaVine are all pulling between 20 and 30%. Dosunmu's approaching 20. Williams is at 13. I really like this team, and I think that does extend to you can also, you know, throw some darts at those backup guards, whether it's Dragic or White as well.
One quick question here, and then we'll move on. Do you have any reservations about having too much of the big three for Chicago in the same lineup? Like, are you only because they're all so similar as far as permanent production goes? You know, oftentimes it's not like they're necessarily all cannibalizing each other, but at their price points, all mid-range price points, do you want to limit that to two? Because you might get lineups, given how popular all of them are, with all three in there. That seems a little sketchy to me. Yeah,
it's a spot where, like, ideally, I don't get that a lot. I'm not going to set a rule against it, I don't think, because it kind of goes back to what we were saying with stacking games. It's like you don't want DeRozan, Vooch, and LaVine all together unless it turns out that you really did, which obviously you're not going to know until after the game. Like, if this ends up being a game, if this game kind of goes according to script, right, where the Bulls are 7-point favorites, and, you know, it's kind of just a game where it's probably like teetering on the brink of a blowout the whole game, then most likely if like LaVine and DeRozan go off, Vooch probably doesn't need to. But you're also going to get that like small percentage of games where DeRozan and LaVine go off, but so does Jalen Green or Kevin Porter or both of them or whatever it may be. And you just end up getting a really fast-paced, high-scoring game that, you know, shoots over its total by 25 points, and you're happy to have all of them. So I don't want to set a rule against it. If I'm building one lineup, I would probably just look elsewhere for, you know, one of those pieces. But across 150, if I get it here and there, I'm fine with having all three.
All right, so let's move on. We're for sure going to have to spend some time on this Pelicans team. So if there are spots over the last 3 games, we got about 10 minutes to make it happen. We'll be fine. That you aren't particularly excited about, feel free to run right through them, interruption free, and then we can spend a little bit more time on some of these more pressing spots. What are you doing with the Pacers? 2.5-point dogs, 234 total here against the banged up Pelicans team.
Yeah, so we do have some injury news here as well. Andrew Nesmith questionable, as is Jalen Smith. If Nesmith is out, it does open up a little bit here. We had Benedict Mathurin start last game in his place. Only played around 20 minutes, but clearly you're not going to project that, given that the guy averages like 26 to 28 minutes off the bench. At 5,200, if he starts, you should see reduced production because he's playing alongside Halliburton, but you also should see increased playing time, so it would make him look a little bit better. Jalen Smith has been the straight backup to Miles Turner, played 23 minutes last game because Turner was in foul trouble. It's just a situation where if Smith is in, you basically can expect Smith to play whatever 48 minus Miles Turner's minutes are. From a projection standpoint, I went 30 on Turner, 18 on Smith. It makes Smith look okay, kind of similar to Kevin Love. It makes Miles Turner look like another $6,400 center with a really high ceiling. Again, going to be difficult to truly prioritize, but he's only getting 8% ownership, so I like the upside in tournaments. The guy that really stands out is Halliburton at 9,500. Should play 34 minutes. Just a ridiculously good player. Obviously, he can score, but he also isn't scoring dependent. Has about a 50% assist percentage this year. Just insanely good. Averages 1.3 to 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So we are waiting on that injury news. Also, if Nesmith is out, it does potentially open the door for 3K O'Shea Brissett to play into the mid-20s. But regardless of injuries, Halliburton looks good. Miles Turner looks good. And Buddy Hield, always can get hot and is reasonably priced.
All right, so the Pelicans. Let's do this. By the way, 2,500 plus people watching with us. Appreciate you guys. We are 134 likes away from 500. Only 8 minutes, but I think we'll make quick work of that. Of the 2,550 watching, there's 133 of you now that are kind enough to take a single second and hit that thumbs up.
John Wall is in for the Clippers, so
okay.
That makes the guys that you were going to throw darts at a little bit less appealing just because Wall's going to play his 22 minutes or whatever.
And Udonis Haslem remains questionable. So Brandon Ingram out, Herb Jones out, Zion doubtful. So we don't expect him to play. Nance, Murphy, Dyson Daniels are all questionable. Break this one down for us because we're going to need it.
Yeah, and it's kind of just difficult right now because we have huge pieces that are questionable, but assuming Zion doesn't play, if Larry Nance doesn't play, I think it's likely actually that we get a three-headed center rotation. We saw Jackson Hayes play really well last game and actually get the overtime center minutes ahead of Joval and ahead of Hernan Gomez, who only played 9 minutes. So if Nance is out, it does make Joval look better. I think you can bump that projection up to around 28 minutes instead of like 25. And he's 6,700, no Zion, so the rates go up as well. It's going to make him look better. He's playable either way, but he'll look better if Nance is out. Hernan Gomez at 3,400 is somebody you can gamble on, especially as like an Orlando Robinson pivot, because if they run the rotation that they ran 2 games ago without Nance, and you get 48 minutes from Joval and Hernan Gomez, he's a really good play. The concern is just if they run that rotation from last game where Jackson Hayes steals some of those minutes, then it's really problematic. So if Nance is out, Hernan Gomez is risky, but does have a high ceiling. If Trey Murphy is out, it should open up even more minutes for Najee Marshall. Garrett Temple probably joins the rotation. If Murphy is out, I don't think that really matters much for DFS. Dyson Daniels at 3,200 should get more minutes if Murphy is out and Daniels is in, but Daniels also questionable. You potentially get some more minutes for Devontae Graham if all of those guys are out. He's 3,100. So I think the things that you can say with confidence right now are that Joval looks good. It's just a question of how good, and that's dependent on Larry Nance. CJ McCollum looks good at 8,600, assuming Zion doesn't play. We know Ingram is out. You're going to get those increased rates for McCollum at 8,600. So I think you can say both of those things with confidence. The rest of it is pretty dependent on what happens with Trey Murphy in particular, but also with Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance.
Jorge asked with a super chat, so I missed it earlier, Jorge. Where can I look for team rotations that can facilitate on creating rules on players that shouldn't be together in the same lineup? Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jorge. You can use Add More Funds, Popcorn Machine. Either of those are popcornmachine.net.
Yeah, so you can use either of those and check the rotations there. But also what you can do, so you don't have to, for the question that you asked, if you go to like Add More Funds, they have an on-off tool. You can just simply like put Vucevic on the floor and see that, Drummond has played like 10 minutes alongside him all season and very quickly come to the conclusion that you probably don't want them together.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I like using them in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
And then we had another super chat. Taylor, $10 super chat. Thanks, Loughran and Adam, for your time. Good luck tonight. Just saying thanks for the time and good luck. You too, man. Appreciate you. All right. Anything else here, or do you want to move on to Utah, San Antonio?
No, I think we can move on. It's a very appealing spot for a lot of guys on New Orleans. Just kind of have no way of knowing yet who those guys are, with the exception of Joval and McCollum.
Yeah. All right. So let's go Utah and San Antonio. Kelly Olynyk out. We'll start with the Utah Jazz here. 235 total against the poorest San Antonio team. Jazz laying 4.5 on the road here. So Clarkson, Conley, Vanderbilt, not the most appealing team today, but there's some spots that you can definitely get to against this Spurs defense.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that is concerning from last game is that you got Colin Sexton back, but that did not kick Nickeil Alexander-Walker out of the rotation. So instead of getting like an 8.5-man rotation, they went to a full 9-man rotation. As a result, Jordan Clarkson played 30 minutes, would have played about 32, 33 in a competitive game. That's still good and still makes him playable, but you can't just like give him 35, 36 minutes with the confidence that you could previously. Same thing for Lauri Markkanen, played 29 minutes. I think he, in a competitive game, plays 32 or 33 based on last game's rotation, but he's somebody that you could have given 35, 36 minutes to before. So I do think that the rotation they ran last game is just a general downgrade for everybody. But that being said, Clarkson at 6,800, Conley at 5K, both look fine. Walker Kessler is just another $5,400 center, not getting ownership, but that certainly has a path to success. Vanderbilt was awful last game, but still played a lot of minutes. He's got power forward eligibility, so I don't mind getting there. I think it's kind of just a tournament team for Utah where I don't love anyone. I don't think they're the best plays at their respective positions, but I do think that there's still some upside here, even though I do not like the rotation they ran last game.
What about the Spurs?
They, I think, are one of the least appealing teams on the slate. They are just getting fully healthy. You can still go to some of these guys. You still have a nice ceiling with Keldon Johnson or Devin Vassell. Jakob Poeltl is another interesting tournament center. His playing time has been impacted recently by first a minutes limit, then blowouts and foul trouble. Looked like he was going to play around 28 minutes last game, though, had he not gotten in foul trouble. So there is some upside there. Jeremy Sohan's played really well the last couple of games. I do think he comes in a bit over-owned, though, just because I think people are going to, for whatever reason, read a little bit more into those games, even though Sohan's been a starter for basically the entire season. He's about a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. He averages around 26 minutes as a starter. I think he's still the same guy. You're just going to get some good games from him, some bad games, but I think he's getting a little bit more ownership than he should.
Okay. Last game to go, Charlotte and Portland. Before we do that, though, first off, appreciate you guys. North of 500 likes, easy, quick work. But also, we make it insanely easy for you guys to get your foot in the door here at Stokastic, to check it out for essentially no cost. I told you about a lot of different ways to do it. If you haven't yet and you're going, okay, it's kind of expensive, I'm not sure I'm trying to do that yet, or you just want to check it out for yourself, couple ways. One, get 3 free days. Everything for NBA free. Boom Bust tool, Boom Bust projections, ownership, the NBA lineup generator, all that is free. Link is down in the description and in chat. No strings attached. If you hate it, you can bounce afterwards. Or you go, I would like 2 months entirely free. And in doing so, I'd like to join the Discord. I'd like to get not just all the NBA tools, but I'd like to get all the NFL and all the UFC and PGA tools and everything that we have. All of our tools, both sports for the lineup generator, you name it. Here's how you do it. It's the simplest, easiest, most brainless attempt or procedure, because you don't even need that's why they call it a no-brainer. You take $10, you click. If BetMGM's available to you, use the BetMGM link, follow the steps. It takes a minute, 90 seconds to sign up. Take that $10, put it on any game. Once that settles, you'll get hit up from BetMGM with 2 free months for Stokastic, all of our tools, every single sport available to you. Discord as well. Literally no strings attached whatsoever. $240 value. And if that bet loses, say you're like, I'd rather do $100. If that bet loses, it's risk-free. So up to $1,000, any bet you make. If it loses, you get it all back in free bets. Take advantage of it. Straight no-brainer. We'd love to have you join the community as well. And check out Stokastic. Check out BetMGM. $10 using that link when you sign up. You're getting 2 free months and a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Huge. All right. Let's go Charlotte and Portland. Charlotte +5, 237.5 total, highest on the slate. We are up against it as we usually are, Adam. So I'll kick it over to you. What are we doing with the Roziers and LaMelos of this world today?
LaMelo in particular, I think looks good. One concern I have for him and have had with him is that his rebounding numbers are down a bit this year. I think you can attribute that to Charlotte playing more minutes with real centers out there. But Nick Richards is doubtful today. Plumlee obviously still in. Maybe you do get some more of those small lineups from Charlotte that we saw last year. One way or the other, LaMelo's playing huge minutes. He's a very high upside option. He looks good. Mason Plumlee, another center that's going to look fine, but just really difficult to prioritize. PJ Washington at 5,600 could get some backup center minutes here, which are actually really productive for him. It makes him look a little bit better than usual, but LaMelo I think is the clear priority. If you get to any of the other starters, I think that's okay. For the Portland side, this is a team that across the board is going to look really good. Yusuf Nurkic is another center getting a lot of ownership. Or a decent amount, 16% projected ownership. Again, I think that makes sense. I do think if you want to pivot some of that to Miles Turner, Jakob Poeltl, Duren, Zubats, any of these guys we've named, it's fine. But Nurkic did foul out last game in 21 minutes, likely to play 28 minutes or so here against a very bad Charlotte front court. Sets up as a really good spot for him. But also Damian Lillard, 9,900. He's a guy that I think really benefits on this slate from the lack of pay-up options. Normally, you're just like, oh, well, can't really get to Lillard because there's XYZ, at $11,000. They're not there today. So Lillard looks really good. Anthony Simon's price tag has come down. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy when Lillard plays, should play around 35 minutes. Jeremy Grant's price tag has come down a bit. Josh Hart is pretty cheap. I think, and all of the starters on Portland look like good plays to me.
Favorite pay-up option on this slate?
Probably Dame.
Okay.
It's either Dame or Halliburton, I think.
And last question here, because center's just a jam-packed position and value continues to open up. We're also waiting on Udonis Haslem, but guess what? Eric Lindquist, Greg Ehrenberg coming up right now. They should get that news while we're live, so don't go anywhere. Favorite center not named Robinson?
Either Vooch or Nurk.
Okay. We appreciate you guys, as always.
Zubats in tournaments.
Yeah, links to all that stuff in the description and in chat. Tyler can throw them in there one more time. Shout out to Tyler for producing. Live Before Lock coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow on the NBA Deeper Dive presented by No House Advantage. Peace.
What's happening, everybody? We're back from the holiday. Myself and Eric Lindquist, and we're going to be breaking down another NBA slate. So if you guys haven't done it already, for Adam and Lofty, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to No House Advantage, the sponsor of today's show. Eric, haven't seen you for a few days. I know we had the holiday yesterday. Did you have a better Christmas than Tyler Xander?
I guess so. I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult. All I heard was complaining, but I've never heard Tyler complain before, so it was a little bit jarring.
Yeah, it was different. I've also never heard this before, but what we did learn, which is most important, is that he's a big beta cuck, and he just doesn't get to do anything that he wants to do on Christmas. He just has to do whatever his mom wants to do.
I had to watch that shitty old The Angel Gets Its Wings movie. I'm like, dude, It's a Wonderful Life is a classic. It's one of the top 10 movies of all time by Variety magazine. Can't really tell you how big of a disappointment it is. Well, actually, no, it's not disappointing because it's you. It's Tyler.
Yeah, so I mean, we come in.
You just said you read Variety magazine. I mean,
I live in Los Angeles, you little dipwad thing.
You can't say I'm a beta and read Variety magazine. That's my only opposition.
In fairness, I said that, not Eric, and I could believe that about both of you. There's not what's the C, right? There's alpha, beta. Is there a C also?
There's omega. There's, I don't know. We're just doing Greek alphabet. Is that what we're going for?
Yeah, whatever C.
Omega is end, which is the end of this conversation.
All right. So it's Tyler, you could be the beta, and then whatever C is, that's going to be Eric for him reading Variety magazine. And then we start talking about tonight's NBA DFS slate, where we just got news that just broke, Eric, and it's not slate breaking or anything like that, but Kyle Anderson ruled out again for the fourth consecutive game. Does this change anything for you, or is the pricing already caught up at this point?
For who?
Kyle Anderson being ruled out?
Yeah, no, I mean, Jaden McDaniels is normally the guy. I updated that as we were coming in live for this. It's weird, but like Austin Rivers at 3,900 might be somebody I assume he ends up starting. We've had this really weird starting lineup from the Timberwolves for a little while in absence of Kyle Anderson. It's whatever. As you said, the prices have kind of caught up. We just have so many more appealing spots to go to on this slate.
And the one that's going to be most predominant is one that isn't exactly breaking news, but it is news that we got, in the last 30 minutes, which is the Miami Heat once again going to be shorthanded. And
your boy, ultimate power cuck,
more
Jimmy Butler.
More people I have vendettas against Jimmy Butler, who continues to duck me in fights online. I've been trying to fight this guy for years now, and here's how afraid of me he is. He doesn't even respond to me on Twitter. That is how frightened he is of me. I tweeted him. Yeah. I mentioned that I want to fight. He doesn't even respond. He's shaking in his boots when he thinks about fighting me. But he's never in the lineup. Today isn't going to be any different. But in addition, Bam Adebayo is out. Dwayne Dedmon is out. Omer Yurtseven has been out. And then we've got Udonis Haslem is questionable. So I want to start with, how are you handling the front court here? Because they don't have guys.
Yeah, you just cut it off there. Orlando Robinson, you play. I think that he's just a guy that you're going to play. Nikola Jovic is a weird one. We do not project him well. And there's a part of me that just wants to fire it there, but I don't think we can. Like, he's 3,700, and the minutes downside, even in some of these starts, we've seen teens minutes out of him. Now, we've also seen 30 and 24 in some of these spots, 32 even, where he wasn't all that productive. I don't know what to say. Like, is this a spot where Orlando Robinson plays 30 minutes, 32 minutes? Because then he's going to show up in every lineup like he should. Even putting him in at 25 and a half minutes like we have here at Stokastic, he's showing up around, a third of the lineups. Haywood Highsmith, I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with, because even at 4,400, he might show up in lineups here. I mean, this is just a really, really awful situation.
Yeah, and I think you just have to assume, and we don't have the starting lineup yet, unless it just came out and I missed it, but I'm pretty sure that we do not have an official starting lineup for the Miami Heat. And yes, we do not. My assumption, though, is that it is going to be Orlando Robinson that starts at center. And then as for the backup, I guess it is going to be Jovic, just from a standpoint of who else is there to play center minutes. And you can't just go small against the Minnesota Timberwolves, because what are you going to do? You're going to play Caleb Martin at center against Rudy Gobert. That's not going to work out, because you'll never get a rebound the entire game. So I guess it's going to be as many minutes as Orlando Robinson can play, with Jovic just picking up the spare minutes after him.
Yeah, I'm nervous because rarely do I do like a lot of adjusting for the other side of a game as a result of news, but I just gave Rudy Gobert about 5 more fantasy points because I look at this front court on the Miami side. I just put him in for a little bit higher fantasy point per minute rate. I don't see how he doesn't annihilate Orlando Robinson, Nikola Jovic, or God forbid, Udonis Haslem. Like, there are paths where that ends up being a guy who has to play minutes and could be on the floor next to Rudy Gobert. And if Gobert can't do it here, like if Gobert cannot just assert himself and go completely bonkers, I don't really know what to say. We have no Karl Anthony Towns. We now have no Kyle Anderson. I just think Rudy Gobert smashes, and I'm having a difficult time getting away from him. I know center is a very, very loaded, ridiculous position today, but Rudy Gobert just kind of jumped to the top for me.
Yeah, it's tough because there are a lot of centers. I agree with you. I would love to play Rudy Gobert. I'd like to play 8 centers per DraftKings lineup. I'd like to play 6 centers per FanDuel lineup. It's really tough to prioritize a lot of these guys. So assuming Orlando Robinson starts, he's going to be my favorite center. Then I just have all of these other guys: Rudy Gobert, and Orlando Robinson I mentioned before, Vooch, who I also want to get to, and Valanciunas, who I want to play with Zion remaining out. So it's hard. Are you going to be prioritizing Gobert above a lot of these guys, or just somebody who's also in the mix?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to go. I mean, I'm just going to be prioritizing Orlando Robinson, Rudy Gobert. I don't see any way around getting to those two a lot opposite each other. I mean, Orlando Robinson's your best value on the slate, assuming he starts. Rudy Gobert is my favorite play, just 7K against nobody of NBA caliber on the other side. This should be a really good setup for him. I like Alperen Şengün going up against Vooch there in that Chicago game. I think he's a piece that's going a little bit slept on, but because he's at center, he's not showing up as much as I would want. Miles Turner, 6,400. Jared Allen, 6,400. Ridiculous. And then my guy, Zubats, I think at 5K. 5K, no Kawhi Leonard. We've seen some spots where he ends up getting 32, 34 minutes in these kind of spots. And the usage is never really going to be there, but you have Paul George creating. You're going to see massive rebound upside. You don't have, well, I kind of wish Marvin Bagley was out there for some of the backup center minutes, but Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, Zubats is a more polished center than both. I feel very good about him at 5K, but can I make way for him on this slate? I don't know if I can get that contrarian now.
Yeah, it's hard to find spots for all the centers we want to play that we want to end up rostering. And we did get a question about one in our Discord channel. Kareem wants to know: do you think Nurkic? Do we think Nurkic is going to play? He's listed as probable. I have no real concerns there, and he's another center that I want to play today. He's fairly cheap. He's got a great matchup against the Charlotte Hornets. Just another guy who gets added into that bucket of centers that I want to play. But once again, if he is going to start, we don't know that for sure. I'm just making an assumption. I think Orlando Robinson is the highest priority center that we could get to today. We just have to make sure that he's going to be in that starting lineup, which at least as of now, Eric and I are both assuming that is going to be the case.
Agreed. Yeah, he's just another. That's the thing. On a lot of slates, he would be your 25% owned center, but like he pales in comparison for me to Rudy Gobert at this point. He pales in comparison to the value of Orlando Robinson. It's just going to be really hard to get different there just because it's so much easier to get different at spots where you don't have 2 complete smashes like that.
All right, we got another question. Some super chats now. One thing that's kind of confusing, Eric, is when I'm hosting this, I'm getting questions now that are from my insider access Discord and also from our other Discord. So I've got like both of them coming in, and I don't know which is for which thing. Oh, by the way, Trey Murphy was just rolled out as well. So I'm going to
Dyson Daniels gone. Oh God.
So we've got Zion officially ruled out, as was expected. Dyson Daniels now ruled out. And so we got this super chat, by the way, from Jorge, which was, who are the top 3 players you guys like for DK single entry? Dyson Daniels was going to be one of my answers. Not the case anymore.
Favorite play.
Yeah. All right.
My favorite play.
This is a Pelican situation that totally changes a lot of the slate because Trey Murphy out. Zion Williamson, we knew he wasn't going to play. He's out. Dyson Daniels, who I thought was one of the best value plays on the slate, the best guard value on the slate, no longer in play. let's look through the situation because we were not expecting this, and it greatly changes what we could expect out of the Pelicans rotation.
Oh my God. The amount of Jose Alvarado, Devontae Graham I'm going to be getting to is absurd. It's absurd. We still have to wait. Like, I think the big question to figure out what we're going to do with is if you get Larry Nance ruled in, because it just said he's going to be a game time decision here, do we think that he could possibly share the floor with Jonas Valanciunas? Because he's strictly been J Val's backup in some of these spots.
They've been playing together a bunch.
They've been playing together? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just go through popcorn here quick.
I mean, well, I shouldn't say lately because Larry Nance has been out. But in recent games where before Nance left, like we saw, if you look on 12-15 against Utah, that was, I'm fairly sure that was a game where they ended up sharing the court together. And
they shared. All right. So we had Zion there. I would assume that they would be able to share the floor. No. So he played backup him there. They didn't share the floor in the first half. And then Jonas Valanciunas, Larry Nance, they shared the floor for 3 minutes in the third quarter, and they shared the floor for 0 in the fourth. I'm looking at that one you just said, the 15.
Yeah, 12-15. So, but either way, they are, but that was also a game where there was
Zion. Exactly. So I'm probably on board with you because they haven't shared a lot of court time over the course of the season, and it's been something that I think people have maybe overreacted to. We should play both of them and do different things. Well, they're not necessarily always sharing the floor together. Let's do this because I think this is really something that matters. We want to be able to pull the trigger on the right situation for Larry Nance. We're going to be able to see that starting lineup, hopefully. Probably not by the end of this show, but you're definitely going to have to be making some strong assumptions about what it's going to be. Because if it doesn't come out at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, you're looking at a problem. But I got to think that they're going to have to share the floor together a little bit here. I'm running it. They've shared 29 minutes of court time all season long, Nance and J Val, but Zion's been there, and now he's not. So there you go.
The other thing I'm going to add, because Keith Mason posts this in the YouTube chat, and I think it's very relevant information. Mm-hmm. All season, Larry Nance and Jonas Valanciunas have played 30 minutes together, but 23 of those minutes have come this month. And also keep in mind, Zion's been active for a lot of those games.
Correct.
So credit to Keith Mason for shouting that out, because what is relevant about it is it was very true. Early in the year, if Zion was out, it made no difference for Jonas Valanciunas and Larry Nance because they were just not going to share the court together. It was going to be, they're just going to play the center minutes, maybe like 26 for Valanciunas, 22 for Larry Nance, and that was it. That's not the case anymore. And also the fact that they were playing some of those minutes together in games that Zion was active, we might even see them start together. We don't know that for sure because the lineup hasn't come out. But with all the players that are out, I would not be shocked if that's the case.
And we don't have Herbert Jones. So it adds another element where you could play him as a small ball 4 in spots. You remove him, I can't imagine that they want to have much Hernan Gomez, Valanciunas sharing the floor type situations. And I think that kind of limits who they'd be out on the floor with. Najee, I think, is the guy who we're going to project for more than 30 minutes now, pretty instantly. Like, he was already a decent play, like not phenomenal. He was coming in, I think, a little bit higher round according to the boom bust tool. But now when you project him for over 30 minutes, sub 5K, I think he's as solid as what those minutes can possibly be. There's just going to be a lot of Pelican interest you have today.
And does this change anything for you with CJ McCollum? Because to me, the answer is no, but only because I already liked him a ton after Zion was rolled out, and I just still like him a bunch.
Yeah, he was already, I think, relative to where he was owned. I mean, I was about 3x the field on him. I was north of like 50%, 60%. He was at 19.4% over on DK. He's an absolute smash. 8,600 is still a broken tag when you don't have Zion, Ingram. He's just going to have all the opportunity to create. And regardless of his mid-range game kind of being off the season, regardless of everything else, 36, 38 minutes of CJ McCollum here is ridiculous.
And then any concerns that Larry... So here's the other thing that's also kind of a wrench thrown into this. Larry Nance hasn't played for a while. Is he going to have a minutes restriction? There's so many factors here that kind of make it difficult to know. So I think here's the way that we should break down the Pelicans, at least for now, without knowing the starting lineup. Who are the Pelicans that you know for sure are going to be high priorities for you at the moment?
All right, for sure, high priorities, CJ McCollum, Najee Marshall, Jose Alvarado, and I would say from a tournament perspective, Devontae Graham. I think for him, I don't want to put him into the priority category, but I will say priority 3,100 with dual point guard, shooting guard eligibility. I think for tournaments is probably somebody that I'm going to get to a surprising amount. I would say guys who are in play for me, definitely Larry Nance if he plays. Jonas Valanciunas would be the slam dunk of all slam dunks if he does not, and I would want to get to more of him, but I should be able to have a little bit later center interest. We have Nikola Vucevic there in that Chicago game, should be able to make some of that, easily pivot down to him there. I could maybe preload some extra Nurkic or things of that nature. Minnesota locks at 7:30, and I think Gobert would be my highest on center right now. So I'm not going to panic too much about that. But right now, CJ McCollum, Najee, Alvarado, and Devontae Graham deep cut.
So I'm running my lineups, and I'm getting to a bunch of Jose Alvarado, Najee Marshall, CJ McCollum. Those are the guys I'm getting the most of. There's other players. The other one also, Jackson Hayes, I think is live to play extended minutes.
That's where I was looking at. I mean, I just pulled up Popcorn again to go over what happened in the last game, because 28 minutes is not what I expected looking at him. Because, I mean, we got rid of everybody that I thought had a chance of playing. So everybody comes into play pretty quickly. You kind of have to consider all options, and they're cheap. I mean, Jackson Hayes is so cheap. The problem with him is he's center, and he'd be kind of a pivot off of Orlando. And I think Orlando's pretty locked in based on the lack of front court depth there. They still have Hernan Gomez who could play in front. As I said, I don't think Hernan Gomez and Valanciunas are ever going to share the floor, but obviously Hayes and Valanciunas had to have last time. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, so running some of those lineups again, and let's hit on some of these super chats, and then hopefully we're going to have an ownership update in a little bit so we could circle back on that and see where some of these players are starting to come in, because this is going to shake up basically all of the information that we had coming into the show as far as ownership. Super chat we have from Jorge. He now wants to know, who are the top 3 players you guys like for a DK single entry? Happy holidays, fellas. So I'm happy I waited a beat to answer your question, Jorge, because like I said, I was going to answer Dyson Daniels, who shortly thereafter ruled out for tonight. But players I like the most, Jose Alvarado is definitely going to be one right now. Other players I like a lot for single entry, Kyle Lowry, I think has to be another one. And I will say CJ McCollum as well. It's tough to narrow down 3. There's a lot of plays I like now.
Yeah, I got a lot of Pelicans that I'm going to like. By the way, Jackson Hayes, Jonas Valanciunas never shared the floor together. And he didn't share the floor with Willie Hernan Gomez. So this Larry Nance news is going to be pretty massive, I think, because I will have interest in all 3 of them if Nance doesn't play, which is a pretty wild thing to say when you think about it, because like Hernan Gomez only played 9 minutes. Hayes played really well, played the fourth corner and closed, and played all 5 minutes of overtime in that win against OKC. Pretty wild to see him come from like no minutes in the rotation and not even the backup center spot to all of a sudden he did share the floor with Willie Hernan Gomez at the end of the first quarter. And then he just ran with the backup center minutes the rest of that game. So I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of ways Hayes and Hernan Gomez and backup center spots end up working out. And it looks like Hayes just has the more likely chance to play next to Jonas Valanciunas. So I will say that they did do that dual big front court over the course of last season is what I'm looking at. So I think it would probably go Hayes is the priority over Hernan Gomez for me, but it's just a wild piece of news that we're still going to have to be waiting for.
Yeah, we just got a question in our Discord channel. Could be Travis wants to know, no more than 3 Pelicans rule necessary for DK? No, I think that there's enough good value plays on the slate. I just ran lineups, and not that I got many of them, but I do have lineups with 4 Pelicans in them. It's a great matchup against the Pacers, and half the rotation is out.
Perfect. Perfectly said.
The next question we have here is from Taylor Weidman. Taylor wants to know, at Eric Lindquist, at Ehrenberg DFS. That's us. Here is so Eric can play 5 lineups instead of 4 tonight. Thanks for your time and insight, as always. Good stuff. Just a kind super chat from our friend.
So Adam gives me shit all the time because I was traveling the one day I won $30K in MLB on a day that I was on a plane and landed in LA, and I hand built 4 lineups and Julio Rodriguez hits a home run or whatever. And Josh just tore me apart because he's like, Eric played 4 lineups in the $15. Eric did this. And so Josh always just makes it a running bit. I have 60 lineups. So literally go F yourself, San Diego.
All right. But because of the super chat with Taylor, you could play one more.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Actually, I can play 2/3 of one more lineup, right?
It depends, right? Math is subjective. The next question is from Obank Rolls. Obank Rolls wants to know, do you think Garrett Temple steals some minutes tonight? So it's funny because Eric and I have been doing this show together for long enough where we've seen certain peaks and valleys of people's career. When we first started doing this show, Eric loved Garrett Temple. There was days where the first couple months that we were doing the show together 2 years ago now, Eric was a big stan of Garrett Temple.
20K Garrett Temple night. That was a beautiful night, if I do recall.
And
beautiful night.
Garrett Temple's career has really fallen off a cliff similar to Eric's ever since then, because Garrett Temple hardly ends up stepping on the court these days. So I think he's going to have to play minutes today, but not enough for me to want to play him over other value guys. Do you disagree with anything I said?
No, he's 3K flat. If there was anybody that would make up a reason to play Garrett Temple, it would be me. And I am not playing Garrett Temple. I don't see any way he plays 20 plus minutes. They have enough bodies. They have enough other guys that they just kind of have out there. I like Jackson Hayes more. That's kind of a guy that I'm taking shots on. I'm going to take shots on Hernan Gomez. I think he's going to be there as another cheapie. And then Devontae Graham going to be a dude that I have a scary amount of, it looks like, just based on my early run of stuff. 23 fantasy points at 3,100. All of those guys at low 3Ks make way more sense than Garrett Temple.
We just got a super chat from Straight Cash Homie. He wants to know, excluding Price, Paul George, or CJ McCollum. So Price not being included. It's just, who do we think scores more fantasy points? Paul George or CJ McCollum? I have Paul George by 1/10 of a fantasy point more.
CJ McCollum.
To me, they're both very good plays.
Yeah, they are.
So they are actually my 2 most roster. I guess it depends what we're calling spend up options, but my 2 most rostered spend up options are Paul George and CJ McCollum today.
Yeah, Paul George, another smash. I mean, I think this is probably a good thing to talk about because we only have a hour show today, right? We're going to NFL, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as how you're going to spend your money that you now are going to have paths to getting to, it has to be discussed who you want to get to the most. I think Kevin Durant is probably the most slept on stud I can remember on a slate, period. And I'm very nervous about how much I'm going to get if he's projected at around 2%. He's 10.5. We have a bunch of this Pelicans value, and maybe as we run ownership again here, we'll figure out what needs to happen. But like, a lot of the value is at center. And then now I think at the guard spots, I have a pretty solid idea of where I'm going to be going. I'm going to be having some contrarian shooting guard interest with Devontae Graham and things of that nature. I have small forward, power forward to spend up for, and I'm going to just get to a lot of Kevin Durant. And I'm going to get to a lot of Paul George at the small forward spot. Like, those 2 guys are as good as it gets. I think LaMelo Ball and Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton are all great point guard options, but I think there's a lot of ways to spread out your ownership there. I just think Kevin Durant at 2% in this spot against Cleveland. I know it's a tough matchup. I know that, it's going to be thinned out a little bit, sharing the floor with Kyrie Irving. We like to play Kevin Durant a lot when he's expensive like this without Kyrie Irving, but I think I just want to get to a lot of him on today's slate. I think if I need extra money to kind of get into that mid-range a little bit, Paul George makes all the sense, but he's already 10 times more popular than Kevin Durant. I want to be spending up for him.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely make a case for it. If somebody's just playing one lineup, Durant would not be in that lineup for me.
Correct.
Because there are guys like, so we got a question from Just Locks, and it also correlated what we just asked. Who are the players that we're paying up for the most today? For me, that's CJ McCollum and Paul George. But overall, over the course of all of your lineups, if you had to pick out the 2 players, you're just getting to, not even relative to ownership, just these are the 2 players that I have the most exposure to their spend up options. Who are the 2 options you would say there?
Tyler Hero Paul George and CJ McCollum. I out of the two, I'd probably go McCollum and Paul George right now.
So we are on the same page with that. And Tyler Hero, maybe this is wrong with me. A little bit of sticker shock, though. The idea that Tyler Hero costs the same, or actually, I shouldn't even say the same. The fact that he's more expensive on DraftKings than Paul George and CJ McCollum, the fact that he's even comparable to those guys, I get that there's a bigger role for him with no Jimmy Butler, with no Bam Adebayo. I just can't, for me, put him on the same tier as Paul George and CJ McCollum as a fantasy producer. Am I wrong for that?
Probably close. I mean, 42 minutes here. I mean, it just comes down to how ridiculously good he's been. No Bam Adebayo, no Jimmy Butler. How do you really start the offense? You have 100-year-old Kyle Lowry, and it just makes sense to get to Tyler Hero with the shooting guard eligibility. If he didn't have that, that'd be one thing. But he's a 1.25 DraftKings points per minute producer with no Bam and no Jimmy Butler. And you put that in for 40 minutes, that's going to project for 50 fantasy points. Look at that fast math. So just saying, it's pretty clean and pretty easy to see how he could pay off this tag.
Yeah, and by the way, Dirty Dan saying Hero for his lower ownership. He's the most popular of those three.
Yep.
If you look at you look at the ownership projection we have right now, and I'm going to refresh to make sure this is the most recent one, but I'm fairly sure it is, unless one has started at the time that I started talking here. Yeah, we have Tyler Hero projected for more ownership than both Paul George and for CJ McCollum. So you're not getting him at an ownership discount either.
Logan Kramer, what did you just... Hero's going to shoot 25 shots. George could shoot 15 times. Paul George is going to shoot more than 15 times with no Kawhi Leonard on the floor. I'm just throwing it out there. Let those issues be assured. He is going to shoot more than 15 times from the floor tonight.
By the way, this is very rare that we get this in our Discord channel. Just Locks is asking us to do the BetMGM read because he wants to see your face on screen.
Oh,
this is uncharted territory. I have never once I've never had somebody ask me to do an ad read. But here we've got Just Locks. He wants to see the visual of Eric, which he looks very handsome in the picture. His
Go
teeth
F yourself, San Diego.
Very happy, very joyous, because he's excited because he knows that if you sign up for BetMGM using our link, you are going to get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and you are going to get up to $1,000 of risk-free bet. So your first bet you place there, even if it loses, risk-free up to $1,000. And look how happy it makes Eric. Look at that. Tyler, how happy is he?
Literally drop kick me in the face.
Is that one? I don't have that one. It's not that I don't have the smiling arrow.
Oh my God.
It's saved. He gets saved today. I'm trying to find it though. Don't
worry.
Oh
my God.
It's a Christmas miracle the day after
Christmas.
Christmas.
Continue to show at this point without the graphic of Eric?
Sure can.
Oh my God, this is terrible. Oh my God. Well, guys, sign up if you want the graphic to come back, I guess. That's the only way that we can vote on it. Oh no, what a disaster. Tyler
is my new favorite producer, Tyler, and totally redeem yourself.
Oh my God, what a day. All right, let's move on to other questions now. It's massively disappointing.
No, I just redeemed myself. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 free months and $1,000 on the screen now. Go get it at BetMGM.
Do the pose, Eric. Do it. You look happier in the picture. You look less happy. You got that super chat from Taylor, so you can play an extra 2/3 of an entry, and this is how you respond. You should be overjoyed about the BetMGM graphic. Someone call it the highlight of your career. That and Garrett Temple. The next super chat is from Eddie Sedja. He wants to know, can I play Alvarado and Graham on the same DK-GPP lineup? Also, who is our favorite forward for DK-GPP? Yeah, there's absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. And, there's a point in time where there's negative correlation between players. Doesn't matter when they're this cheap. So I'm totally cool with playing both Devontae Graham and Jose Alvarado in the same lineup. As for forward, who is the forward you currently have the most exposure to?
I'm unhappy. Currently, my highest owned forward is Najee Marshall.
That is the same for me. It's hard to get away from some of these Pelicans guys. And Najee Marshall, I get it. He's really popular. He's now projected for 41% ownership on DraftKings. The most popular play on FanDuel right now, Najee Marshall at 50% ownership. Jose Alvarado, 45% ownership. Actually, let's go through some of these for DraftKings and FanDuel. We got a fresh ownership update. I want to give the people the most popular plays on the slate now that it's all updated. Here's the top 5 for DraftKings. Jose Alvarado, 57%. Najee Marshall projected for 41% ownership. Orlando Robinson, 34% owned. Kyle Lowry, 30% owned. Then we've got DeMar DeRozan at 27%. For FanDuel, Najee Marshall is 50%. Jose Alvarado, 45%. Tyler Hero, 42%. Kyle Lowry, 38%. DeMar DeRozan, 37%. Do you disagree with any of the ownership going to these players? Maybe not the number individually, but any players that you're just undercutting in any kind of significant way?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty good chalk at the top. I think if you wanted to have a conversation about Kyle Lowry in the year of our Lord 2022, we probably could, but he's 6,600 without Butler, without Adebayo. And I just got done talking about how lovely Tyler Hero looks, 1.25 DraftKings points per minute guy, 0.9 for Kyle Lowry for a boatload of minutes. That's pretty perfectly accounted for. So yeah, he's another guy that if he plays 35, 36 minutes like we would expect in a competitive game, he's going to be gigantically popular. I'm telling you what, I'm scared by how much Kevin Durant I'm getting to. This is not something I was expecting today, but now with Alvarado at point guard, with Kyle Lowry at point guard, CJ McCollum at point guard, I don't have to be spending up for some of these guys that I really wanted to play before. Like I was going to come on here and talk about how much I like Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton and a lot of these more expensive point guards. Why wouldn't I just be spending up to try to get to the top ceilings of like the Paul George at small forward, and then at power forward or small forward or power forward, you got Kevin Durant. I think he's going very, very slept on because I care about raw points at the moment, and he can do the most of them at that position.
Here's a question. Who do you have projected for more points, Paul George or Kevin Durant?
More. Oh, I have Kevin Durant projected for more.
I have Paul George projected for more.
So, I mean, both of them are great. They're great options.
Oh, is there a follow-up to that, or you were just trying to shoehorn that in?
I just wanted to because that's where my brain went, and I'm updating shit. Okay, Greg? Just let my brain do the things.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
So the issue I have with Kevin, and by the way, at 2% ownership, let me see what the most recent number is.
3% now. He's at 3%.
3% on FanDuel, 3% on DraftKings. So yeah, at that price, you could certainly make a case for him. But just in terms of raw fantasy projection, I do have Paul George for more. We just haven't seen the same upside from Kevin Durant since Kyrie Irving came back. Off the top of your head, Eric, when would you guess is the last time that we saw Kevin Durant drop a 60 fantasy point ceiling game?
60? I don't know. End of November at some point.
I'm gonna look
like a
it
month
up
ago.
now.
If I had to guess, I would say like a month ago.
Yeah,
he played great against Detroit last time, didn't he? It was like a week ago. He put up 60.
It was November 28th was the last time he had 60.
Okay.
Against Orlando. So
how much did he had 58 against Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay, I was close. It's close.
He's been very consistent, right? A lot of games in the mid 40s to low 50s for fantasy point totals. The real ceilings we haven't seen as much. And I think just the issue is Kyrie being back in the mix. Then Ben Simmons also taking away some of the assists. So we've seen less playmaking for Kevin Durant and less usage. And it's just overall led to still good fantasy performances, just not great high ceiling ones. But once again, I don't have an issue with what you said. At 3% ownership to differentiate, you could play all the chalk today. And then if you have Kevin Durant in that lineup, you have a massively different looking lineup.
Correct. And I'm pretty interested in that. Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Paul George. I mean, for me, it's like there's so many good mid-range plays in at center. I mean, we have 4,800, 9,000. I mean, there's just so many guys to be playing at center that it's ridiculous. Like maybe you don't have to try too hard to differentiate because if you don't play Vooch and Gobert, you're probably getting different. And Orlando Robinson, you're getting very different. But I like those guys. I'm going to play those guys. And I think Kevin Durant gives me just that different pathway at the top.
Somebody said he left a super chat that it was Michael Roundtree said, did we get his super chat? I do not see it, but let me see if I can find it in here. All right, Tyler DM me. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. Michael Roundtree wants to know Bogdanovich or PJ Washington for a FanDuel last man in.
Bogdanovich.
That for why I'm pretty sure I know what Eric's answer is going to be.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to prioritize either of these guys. It would be Bogdanovich if I had to pick one, but neither of them are priorities.
I just know I have one in my player pool, and I know I don't have one because I did Hornets is the last team before we came live on air. I just finished up my stuff with them, and I'm only getting like two guys. I'm getting Ball and Hayward.
Yeah, it would be Bogdanovich for me. So from a projection standpoint, he's not going to look great today relative to the other options. But we've seen a clear ceiling from him, and he has these games where he has extremely high usage rate, knocks down a bunch of shots, and then they just feed him the basketball. So once again, neither of them are priorities, but if I have to pick one, that would be my answer there. Some more questions in the Discord channel. First from Cream. What do you guys think of pivoting off of George and Dame and going to Halliburton? So for me personally, if I am going to roster a more contrarian spend up option, Eric, your guy was Kevin Durant. I prefer Tyrese Halliburton. And I think that there's a couple reasons why. Number one, it's really, really hard to put into mathematical terms what it means for a player on the opposite side of the ball when players get ruled out.
Yep.
This is a very watered down version of the Pelicans team. And I think it's an easier matchup than it would look like on paper, typically for Tyrese Halliburton. In addition to that, we are all going to be playing a lot of Pelicans value. It makes sense to just get Halliburton in there as well for a little bit of correlation. So that is a contrarian spend up option that I like getting to in Halliburton. So that's my version of Kevin Durant is Halliburton.
I love Tyrese Halliburton. I think I've talked about him since day one on this show, where I've just been playing lots of him all the time. Shout out Iowa State. I think that Sacramento made a major mistake long-term by Sacramento did by getting rid of Tyrese Halliburton. Duke agrees, that's for sure. So I think we got to be looking at Tyrese Halliburton as somebody that you just want to get to on most slates. And this spot, I mean, I just got done talking about the center spot there where you have a watered down situation for Gobert too. I think the same thing applies here for Halliburton.
Yeah, and by the way, I do find it really difficult to get to Gobert. And I think he's a great points per dollar play. And before at the start of the show, we were talking about him as somebody potentially getting to, and still in there for me, just other guys I'm going to have to prioritize a little bit more, unfortunately. Go Blue 112 wants to know best power forward plays on FanDuel. So the overall best power forward plays, in my opinion, over on FanDuel. As far as the chalky guys go, I think that Najee Marshall and DeMar DeRozan are both worthy chalk. Jeremy Grant, I think, is a little bit too popular for FanDuel purposes. And then everybody else is basically contrarian. So if I had to pick out a contrarian power forward play that I like on FanDuel, I would go with favorite contrarian power forward. I'll answer Bojan right around 10% ownership. No, that wouldn't be it either in terms of.
I like Jeremy Grant on FanDuel, 7,100 for him. Anybody against Charlotte, pretty viable.
Let me see. Power forward.
That's like a way off the board contrarian one for me.
No, but he's the most popular power forward on the entire slate.
Jeremy Grant is?
Yeah.
On FanDuel?
Yeah.
I just pulled up the FanDuel. I'm not playing FanDuel today. So, I mean, I just knew that tag was 71.
By the way, so we were going through the players. I said I thought Grant was the most overowned player at the position. You're like,
cool,
I think
good talk.
Contrarian play.
Oh, I didn't think he was that popular. Let me pull it up. Again, this is why you shouldn't speak before looking things up. I just knew he was there.
And by the way, I was also, by the way, I was looking at the DraftKings ownership before, but that aside, Jeremy Grant is projected for 30% ownership on FanDuel.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So
contrarian,
I was way off.
Contrarian options I like to get to at the power. So yeah, go ahead.
How do you feel about Jeremy Sokan?
Not good.
Okay. I feel good about him. 5,100 small forward, power forward over there on FanDuel. I don't know. We see this all the time with rookies where they just evolve differently. And I doubt he's some offensive stalwart, but we know how good he was defensively in college. back in Baylor days. I understand. I think he could be a decent enough piece going forward. I doubt we see any kind of replication, but it would seem as though he's getting extended run here the last few 31, 26 minutes here in some spots. At least been a willing participant from three here of late, even if it's not going down necessarily. Really good rebounder, double potential eventually there too with the extended run in minutes. It's hard to look at his baseline numbers averaging like 8, 4.5, and 2.5. It's completely different if he's going to be playing 28, 30 minutes a night.
I would rather play Jackson Hayes for $1,000 less in similar ownership. If I'm paying up for somebody to be contrarian at power forward, I will go with Markkanen at $8,200. Easy match for him against the Spurs. Power forward on FanDuel is probably the most difficult position to fill on the slate, as evidenced by Jeremy Grant being 30% owned at the position.
Yeah, that's absurd. That's an absurd number over there.
The two most popular power forwards on FanDuel, by the way. It's Jeremy Grant at 30% owned and Patrick Williams at 24%.
Dear God.
I would just rather go anywhere else. Like Jackson Hayes to me at 18%, somebody I really like getting to, especially if Larry Nance is ruled out. And like I said, Markkanen as a somewhat contrarian spend up option, 8% at $8,200. That's where I would look.
That's great. Again, I just remember looking at that number earlier today and I'm like, oh, he's a good play at 30, and didn't see that he was like crazy owned on FanDuel as a result.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't talk. There we go.
So anyway, those would be my answers. And yeah, I recognized before I was looking at the DraftKings positions. That was why I amended it. H, that's the man's name, H. Interest in Stu with Bagley out and Batum starting for FanDuel. So we just talked about how shitty the power forward position is. And I think you could make a case for Isaiah Stewart. Has power forward eligibility on FanDuel, only projected for 4% ownership at $5,400. I don't mind that play. I don't have an issue with that. Or could you get behind Isaiah Stewart?
Yeah, I can get behind it. You don't have Bagley behind it. I think him and Duren both just have a different complexion without Marvin Bagley out there. They want to give Duren minutes. Like you invested in him, your team's going absolutely nowhere, and Nerlens Noel ain't it. Like Nerlens Noel will play a little bit of minutes at the 5 just because they need another body. But I can guarantee you when it comes down to like who you want to see on a floor, it's Stewart and Duren. I think they're both in play. I like the Isaiah Stewart shout out more.
The next Slack just went totally nuts for me. I went to pull up my notifications and it showed me messages for like 2 months ago for some reason. JEW, DK single entry, any love for Warren with Curry and Joe Harris out? No, earlier today when Adam and I were doing the strategy show, we talked about the potential merits of playing him in large field tournaments, but just other value opened up since then. The difference is this morning, we thought Zion was playing. We thought a lot of guys were playing that are currently out, and there's just better value at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot better value. There's just places you need to go. And like TJ Warren doesn't have a minutes upside to be there. You know how scoring dependent he's going to be long-term for this team. This would have been a play that I would have talked about. I like his 8.5 points prop over on different sites. There's some spots where you can go wager $1 or $2 on that. I don't mind that, but definitely not for DFS for me today.
Good point here. Min Cash Merchant wants to know, when Duke was barking before, he was actually letting you know, Eric, that he was laughing at the BetMGM promo picture. He was not disagreeing with any of your NBA takes. He was just laughing at your BetMGM promo.
Thanks, everybody, for all of your support and telling me that my dog now hates me. I appreciate it.
No. He doesn't hate you. He just thinks that you're funny to laugh at sometimes. And he knows that you provide him his food.
Yeah. Hilarious, guys.
There we go. All right. So we've got that sorted out.
Absolutely.
How are you doing on your lineup?
I'm good. I got them updated. They're live. I put in some placeholders. I do want to revisit this because I think once again, we're on a show that is over in 9 minutes, whereas, other days of the week, we'd be going another half hour. How are you game planning for the Pelicans here? Because I think it really matters when this news comes down. If we get to lock at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, Minnesota, Miami, and we don't have either Larry Nance news or a Pelican starting lineup, you're going to get some really, really unowned pieces in Jackson Hayes, Hernan Gomez. I think there's a lot of different iterations. I think the starting lineup's pretty clear that you're probably going to be getting, Najee Marshall moving in there for Herbert Jones. You're going to be getting Jose Alvarado probably moving in there as well. It seems pretty clear cut there, but like, how are you going to be game planning this Pelicans spot?
I don't really have to do them. I don't really have to do too much because I just get to so many Pelicans as is. Jose Alvarado, Najee Marshall, CJ McCollum, that if things happen to break differently than how we're expecting it, I don't really give a shit because I already have these guys in my lineup that's easy to pivot off of.
Fair. Okay. For me, I'm just kind of making sure that I have enough. So it's $200 more to Hernan Gomez, $300 to Jackson Hayes. And I'm making sure that I build lineups out with like 49.8 in salary, making sure that I can go from some of my Orlando Robinson and move that up to one of those guys. Just in the event that like 5 minutes before we get to the lock of that game and there's still no news, I'll probably just make the tournament pivot to begin with.
And let me see if we got more super chats. We did. We just got another one from Taylor. Wants to know, hit him with the Lindquist promo. But I've never seen so much request for
What's wrong with you people?
Can you just once do the pose in real life, Eric?
No.
Not even for a super chat?
I'm not a dancing monkey who's going to dance for the pleasures of a bunch of, oh my God, you just put it on the screen.
Whatever, you're a dancing clown. It doesn't matter which one you are.
I'm not happy right now.
Hit him with the Lindquist promo. So, all right, Eric doesn't want to do. We do have another one that we could bring up though, which is we have our sponsor, No House Advantage today. And if you guys haven't signed up in No House Advantage, when you do, get up to a $50 bonus on your first deposit, and you're going to get access to a ton of overlay because their contests have not been filling this year. And you guys should be taking advantage if you are not already. But when you sign up, make sure to click on our links to get up to a $50 bonus on your first deposit. Boy, Eric is not wanting to play along today. Eric's usually one for the bit, not today.
I normally am, but here's the thing. I'm very focused. I think there's a lot of money to be made today. There's a lot. I don't get this feeling very often where it's just like, I think my lineups are better than everybody else's, but like, I think Kevin Durant is really, really the difference maker today. I don't understand why he's not at least like 5, 6, 7% owned. And as a result, I'm playing 20+%. And I feel really, really good about it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't have any issue with that. My preference is just to go to Halliburton there. Halliburton also being a very under-owned piece in my opinion, but both of them, I definitely think you can make a strong case for. How much of Halliburton are you getting to then?
24%. I know.
And which of the high end guys are you undercutting?
I'm now coming in a little bit under on Paul George. I thought I was going to be way over. He's at 22.6. I think I'm going to end up under. I'm definitely under on DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. Like that is a lot of ownership coming in for them. And people have had that sitting there waiting in the wings all day long. Is it a good spot against Houston? Yes. But they're all active. We're talking about DeRozan, LaVine, and Vooch. And it just doesn't feel like I have to try to force that as much as what it would seem the field is. So I'm kind of undercutting all three of them.
Okay. So yeah, I was just curious because I knew if you were overweight to all the contrarian guys, at some point there was somebody you have to be underweight to. So
those would be the ones.
That would be the answer.
They're all active, and I get it. They all project out well. They're all a little bit too cheap, but like, we have some drastic spots where there's nobody. Like CJ McCollum has nobody there. Like I will take the CJ McCollum side over all three of those bulls all day long.
We have a super chat here from Vinny C. In the 90s, everyone was worried about coworkers going postal. Eric is that guy.
I mean, that's a dark, bleak thing to say, but sure.
Going postal. What was the definition of going postal?
It's like, I mean, I don't know a way to say this that isn't going to sound inappropriate. So you Google it, look it up. He thinks I'm just like on tilt and would do bad things. I am not.
Going
that
postal is an American English slang phrase referring to becoming extremely and uncontrollably angry, often to the point of violence and often in a workplace setting. No, that's correct.
Yeah, why don't you go tell more people on Twitter that I'm just, that I'm just so difficult to work with. How about you go do that, Greg?
First of all, it's true. Second of all, I've never done such things.
Okay.
Never. And I certainly didn't screenshot and text it to you either.
No, you never would. You would never do that.
It's true. If people message me and ask questions about Eric in my Twitter DMs, I will make up stories about him and I will take pictures of them and send it to Eric afterwards.
And I'm just like, why are you doing this to me? They're just like, oh, he must be just we're so sorry for you, Greg. And you're like, yeah, I get a lot of sympathy for it. It's absurd.
Let's round this out and go through our most rostered players at each position. So for me at point guard, it is Jose Alvarado and Kyle. Well, I don't have McCollum to use at shooting guard here. So, all right, point guard, I'll just go Alvarado, Lowry, and McCollum.
Yeah, I mean, Alvarado, McCollum, I have absolute tons of them here. I'm finishing something up so that I don't have the amount of Alec Burks and Jalen Ivey that was just showing up for me. That needs to go and disappear and never resurface. There we go.
Small forward, that is Paul George and Zach LaVine for me. For you, Eric?
It is Devontae Graham as well, Tyler Hero.
Power forward, Najee Marshall all day.
Najee Marshall all day.
Center for me right now, Orlando Robinson and Jackson Hayes. That's very much dependent on starting.
See, now I'm getting Paul George again. Now I have 38% Paul George. I don't know why he's yo-yoing so much for me as I'm updating stuff, but he seems to be in fluctuation. Najee Marshall, Kevin Durant, power forward.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's so hard to get away from Najee Marshall. He's the one value play right now that I feel like of all the pieces that are moving at the forward spot, or at least in the front court, he's the one I feel the best about in terms of a guy that I know I'm going to be playing later. Like, I think I'm going to be playing Jackson Hayes and Orlando Robinson. But if Orlando Robinson doesn't end up starting, that's something that would definitely change the outlook of my lineups. And then same depending on what the starting lineup ends up being with the New Orleans Pelicans, because that's something else in the front court. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to handle it. And then Larry Nance's question. We don't know if he's going to be in or out. Some questions coming into the Discord channel. Bang out as many of these as quickly as we can. And then we're going to pass this over to the NFL Live Before Locker. So if you guys have not done it yet, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Jets World, with all having just point guard eligibility on DK, rank Halliburton, CJ, Lowry, and Alvarado for DK. For me,
I mean, Alvarado and CJ McCollum are on an island by themselves having umbrella drinks.
And then Lowry. I love Halliburton for large field tournaments. For single entry, though, or if you're just building one lineup, it would be Halliburton fourth.
Yep. Agreed.
Hef Love. I hope Seth's wife and her boyfriend had a great Christmas. For
Me
DK,
too.
Simons and Rozier, or Hero and Sokan.
I like Hero and Sokan. I think I'm higher on Sokan's potential than you are. Also, we got the Timberwolves starting lineup. Rivers is starting. I was correct.
Yeah. Not really going to change much there.
Nope. Same.
I don't really like either of those combinations. I guess Hero and Sokan if I had to pick one, but neither of them am I really in love with. And then we've got Swaz really quickly. How do you like Miles Turner as a pivot off of Grant at crazy ownership on FanDuel? Based on the ownership, I would prefer to get to Miles Turner.
I would too.
All right. That is going to do it for us. Once again, if you guys didn't do it, big favor to us. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, stick around and watch the football show, and good luck tonight.